Are you a high-performing parent, entrepreneur, or high achiever in pursuit of excellence? Welcome to The Nexus Podcast, a podcast custom tailored for families like ours, driven, affluent, and eager to lead extraordinary lives. From rockstar stay-at-home moms to high-producing CEOs, we choose to model success for everyone we are surrounded by. We prioritize health over sickness, embrace a vitalistic lifestyle, and seek to tap into the limitless potential that God has bestowed upon us. I'm Dr. Daniel Kimbley, your host, and on this podcast, we'll uncover the secrets to living a fulfilling and abundant life, where you and your loved ones can thrive physically, mentally, and spiritually. Together, we'll forge a path to greatness and unleash your God-given capabilities. Get ready to say yes to a life of true prosperity and well-being. This is The Nexus Podcast. What is up, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. And you know I'm your host. And this week, I'm going to dive into something a little bit different yet again. I feel like I've kind of been off the cuff a little bit more so than in weeks past, but that is okay because I'm going to continue to bring you the message because I believe this is the message that will eventually one day change the world. And some of you probably think I'm crazy, and that's okay. Maybe I am, but I'm telling you, I've seen the radical transformation inside of my life. I've seen the radical transformation inside of the people that I get to take care of's lives, and just continually parents like asking questions. And so I get so passionate about chiropractic that there's a part of me that often wants to like not talk about it on the podcast and what we do in my office, because it feels like, I'm just trying to convince everybody to come into our office or whatever other stuff I've been accused of out there. But the reality is like, I truly believe that this could change every single person's life. If every person on the earth had chiropractic care the way that we do it, then the world would literally be a different place. Like, people would make better decisions, people would be more connected, people would be happier, people would be more faithful, people would be more optimistic, people would be more hopeful, people would for sure be more healthy, using less prescription medications, etc., etc. Getting off on a tangent, but the reason that I wanted to talk to you guys today is because it's something that's been on my heart, and it's something that continues to come up over and over and over again inside of my practice. And that is that when we experience symptoms, they are actually normal. And you've heard me say this before, but I can't help but stress it because I think it's so important that people grasp this concept that, like, if I'm running outside and I sprain my ankle because I step into a pothole, I'm going to have physical pain. And part of the reason that that physical pain is there is because my brain is infinitely intelligent, designed by God, given an innate intelligence, and that innate intelligence says, hey, Daniel, stop running. I'm going to make it hurt so you can rest and recover. And so there's this very real process of pain that teaches us something about our lives. And I want to share this with you in a little bit different context than I normally would, but I know you've heard me talk about this before if you've listened to any episodes of the podcast. But I was reading yesterday in a book that we often read inside of my practice, and there's a paragraph that stuck out to me. So I'm going to read you that paragraph, and then what I want to do is draw it back to this conversation that I just had about pain in the ankle, and about how you, or if you know someone who's struggling and suffering with symptoms, it doesn't matter what those symptoms are, there's likely a cause that you are not being told. And that's what I want to share with you today is that, like, what is the cause? Like, how can we help more people? How can we see people's lives change? How can we see people's pain go away? How can we see people's symptoms go away? How can we get people off of their medications? Like, all of these things that are so crucial and so valuable, it starts with having a healthy nervous system. So let me just read to you what I read yesterday. This is a paragraph. They asked the question. It says, how do you respond when life asks you to let go of something you have valued? We are living in a time of incredibly rapid change. Many of us go through several marriages, careers, living situations, spiritual paths, and belief systems in one lifetime. We may feel guilty that we did not stay with one partner forever. We may feel guilty or believe that there is something wrong with us because we change so much. But perhaps what you thought was wrong with you is what is right with you. And I'm going to say that one more time. I got to read that sentence again. Perhaps what you thought was wrong with you is what is right with you. Perhaps in wisdom, you chose to go through many experiences so you could master a host of lessons in one lifetime. Now, my friends, this brings up an interesting conversation, is that what if everything that was wrong with you is actually what is right with you. I had a conversation yesterday in my office. I sat down with a very new client of ours who has scoliosis, and we've helped many people with scoliosis. So the question became is like, all right, so this person's been told they've had scoliosis their whole life, but no one really ever answered the question of like how it got there. And no one really ever answered the question of like, could anything be done for it? It was just kind of like, yeah, we're gonna manage it the best we can. You can do braces, you can do drugs, you can just avoid working out because that's gonna be helpful to you. And the reality is like, we shouldn't have to go through life that way. In my personal opinion, we shouldn't have to go through life that way. I know this is gonna step on some toes because some people are just stuck where they are. But the reality is that like symptoms, back pain, neck pain, headaches, skin issues, digestive issues, migraines, vision issues, the list could go on and on and on and on and on. Whatever the symptom is, I know for a fact that the cause is rooted in your nervous system not functioning at 100%. And so when I hear this, I always talk to people like, hey, maybe your pain is actually a good thing because it's telling you to stop doing something. And the stop doing something isn't like the sprained ankle that I mentioned earlier. More of what the stop doing something is stop thinking a certain way. Stop looking at the world a certain way. Stop believing certain things to be true about people that may or may not be true. Stop focusing all your attention on everything that's wrong with the world and start looking at what's happening right in front of you in your world and notice that there's so much to be grateful for. And one of the things that I see is like there's this direct link between emotional stress, mental stress, and our body's physical symptoms. And we can link up joy to shoulders, and we can link up support and financial support to low back pain and mid back pain. And neck pain is about flexibility, and wrist pain is about moving forward, and knees are about ego, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on. And I share this with you because when I hear someone come in and they say, hey, I have pain, the reality is a lot of times in my head I'm thinking good. Because your body is doing exactly what it was designed to do in times of high stress, which is increased pain, which is increased heart rate, increased blood pressure, increased blood sugar levels, increased cholesterol levels, increased clotting factors in the bloodstream, increased fear, anxiety, depression. Turn off the front part of the brain that's responsible for our connection to other people. It's responsible for our relationships. It's responsible for our grit. It's responsible for our willpower. It's responsible for our creativity. Like all of these things that people come in suffering, struggling with, like all of those things are a direct result of stress. And the reality is that every time we have a stress, if we have an overabundance of stress in our lives, then our body is designed to function in a certain way so that it can survive. So again, I go back to this concept of like, your symptoms are normal. Your body is doing exactly what it was designed to do when your life is too stressful. And the problem for us and the problem in society today is that we used to be cavemen and women. And every time we had a stress, we had a bear or a lion or a saber-toothed tiger, we had to run or we had to catch food and we had to go out and hunt our food. We're fighting and running away constantly. And today we don't have that. We have the stress of the internet. We have the stress of blue light on our screens. We have the stress of finances and the stress of taxes and the stress of kids and getting our kids from ballet to gymnastics to soccer. And I got to take this kid here and this kid here and I'm on the PTA and I'm in the MOPS group and I have all these things to do and like it just overflows. And when our stress overflows because we never fight or run away, we go to the gym for an hour a day and we pat ourselves on the back. But the reality is like every single stress that you ever have, you should be fighting or running away immediately after. This is what your stress hormones do. This is what they're designed to do. Increase heart rate, increase blood pressure, get you up, get you moving. And as soon as you fight or run away, then the brain goes, oh, there's no more threat. We can go back into rest and digest. But the problem is that we have so many stresses today that they stack on top of each other. They stack on top of each other. They stack on top of each other. And when these stresses stack and stack and stack and stack, what do you think happens? And the answer is that eventually it becomes the straw that broke the camel's back. And that's when the symptoms show up. So when I see somebody come into my office with type 2 diabetes and they have a super high stressful job, they're at a desk all day, they're eating bad food all day, it's like, yeah, no wonder your body's insulin resistant. It's designed to be that way. In times of high stress, one of the things the stress response does is increase our insulin resistance. So long term, don't we think that our bodies would naturally go into that state? Because that's what we're designed to do. Again, there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with anybody who shows up into our office. And it kills me. It breaks my heart when somebody says, my shoulder's broken, just fix my shoulder. I'm like, your shoulder's broken because you're not broken. You're not broken. Your body's expressing itself the way it was designed to when the stress gets too high. Your body's expressing itself the way it was designed to get you to stop doing something. And so if you can start to change your thought process, if you can start to get the joints of your spine moving well and turn off the stress response, which is what I'm responsible for inside of my practice, then your body will start to express life again. It will start to express health again. But you cannot do that stuck in a fight or flight state. And everybody always asks me, they're like, well, Dr. Daniel, I work out for an hour a day. That's moving around. Well, guess what? Working out is a stress on the system. We release the exact same set of hormones we do during fight or flight that we do during workout. And then people wonder why they don't recover well. They always have chronic injuries, or why their hamstrings are chronically tight, or why their posture's so bad, or why their neck hurts, or why their digestive's off. And the reality is because we're all too stressed out. And the number one thing that I know of to alleviate stress stuck on in your nervous system is chiropractic adjustments. Why? Because fighting and running away requires lots of movement. We know that 90% of nutrition and stimulation to the brain come from movement of the joints of the spine. And so if we take this concept of movement of the joints of the spine gives our brain stimulation, it gives our brain nutrition. Fighting and running away is so important because we get nutrition and stimulation to the brain, and then as soon as the threat goes away or the stress goes away, our body can go back into rest and digest. But we sit on our computers, we sit on our phones, we sit in traffic, we sit most of the day for most of the people that we take care of. And the reality is that in those times of sitting and fight or flight, our body stays stuck and locked in this fight or flight state. And working out one day a week is not going to overcome all the other stresses that you experience. EMF, being in Wi-Fi, is a stress on your system. Eating bad food is a stress on your system. Breathing pollution in the air is a stress on your system. Getting cut off in traffic is a stress on your system. The stress of finances is a stress on your system. Getting your kids from point A to point B and worrying about and making sure you're on time and that the schedules are orchestrated and the kids have food and all the things that we have to worry about as parents is a stress on the system. And when we add these stresses, if we don't fight or run away every single time, then the brain's going to go into a fight or flight state and it's going to stay stuck there until it feels like it's safe to come out. But because we never move, we continue to add more stresses, the brain stays stuck, trapped there, and our body cannot heal. It cannot express itself the way it was designed to when there's not stress. It can only express itself with symptoms, with things to get you to stop, with things to get you to lay down, with things to get you to quit, so that your body can snap back into its rest and digest state. So here's what's super interesting about this conversation is that, again, you're not broken. Like any symptom that you can think of that you have, and we could get into thyroid, we could get into hormonal issues, we could get into weight issues. Like aside from getting in a car accident where you like just completely shatter or fracture vertebrae or fracture your body, like those are the kind of stresses that are a little bit different than what I'm talking about. There's still stresses on the system. You would still benefit greatly from chiropractic care, but we're talking about these day-to-day stresses, right? And when these day-to-day stresses add up, it literally changes your body's expression. And your body's only natural expression in a fight or flight state is to increase pain signals, increase symptomatology, increase heart rate, increase blood pressure, increase blood sugar levels, increase fear, anxiety, depression. This is why you can't work out one hour a day and expect to get out of this. This is why so many people still suffer. You can't expect to take supplements and get out of it. Here's the reason why. Because when you take the supplements, like if your body can't rest or digest, what do you think it's going to do with those supplements? It's not going to use them very well because it literally can't. Like you have to address your nervous system first. Your brain controls every single thing that happens in the body. You can't meditate your way out of it. If your body's stuck in a stressed out state, you can't even get into those deeper brain waves of meditation in the first place. The reality is you have to address your neurology first, you address your brain first, and then everything else is icing on the cake and it layers up and it makes things better. But people so often, I see this all the time, is like everybody's trying to take this backwards approach. I want the quickest, easiest hack where I don't have to do anything at all. I can just continue to sit on my computer and sit on my cell phone and stress myself out even more. And then I wonder why nothing works and I spent thousands of dollars and I've been to all these practitioners and nobody can give me answers, but everybody wants to give me medications and everybody wants to give me supplements, but nobody's really told me how my body actually works and nobody definitely told me that I'm not broken. And the reality is, I get so fired up about this, is that you are not broken. And I would have you consider the question that I asked when I read the book in the beginning is, what if everything right now where you stand was right with you? And if you're not happy with where things are, maybe, just maybe, it's a result of a stressed out state. And it's your body's natural response to an abnormal amount of stress. I'm going to say it another way. It's your body's normal response to an abnormal amount of stress, and there's only one way that I know of to fully alleviate that stress locked in the nervous system, and it's through movement of the joints of the spine. Roger Sperry, 1980s, Nobel Prize, he found that 90% of nutrition and stimulation to the brain comes from movement of the joints of the spine. My friends, that's what we do as chiropractors. That's why I love what we get to do. Not because we fix anybody, not because we're magical healers, but because we can tune into the God-given innate potential inside of each and every single person, and we allow that person's innate intelligence to express at 100% the way God designed it. I love you, I appreciate you, and I will definitely come at you next week. Peace.